Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis discussion brought to you by ForumIAS for the date 8th of September 2023. These are the list of news articles for today's discussion. We will be covering 5 topics from science and technology, international relations, and a topic from economics and environment. Alongside this, we will also be discussing 2 previous year prelims questions at the end of the discussion. So straight away, let us move to our first article of the day. First topic: Delhi may turn venue for dialogue on reviving the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The news is that United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is on a mission to revive the Black Sea Grain Initiative, and he planned for talks on the sidelines of G20 summit. However, Ministry of External Affairs, officials of Ministry of External Affairs said that they were unaware of any meetings on the sidelines of G20 summit, but they underlined India's position in support of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. So in this context, let us know about Black Sea Grain Initiative. See, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine began, exports of grains from Ukraine as well as food and fertilizers from Russia have been significantly hit. The Black Sea Grain deal endeavors to tackle escalating food prices emanating from supply chain disruptions. Know that the deal is brokered by United Nations and Turkey, and it was signed by the United Nations, Russian Federation, Turkey, and Ukraine. The aim of it is to resume Ukrainian grain exports through the Black Sea amid the war conditions. The main purpose of the deal was to provide a safe maritime humanitarian corridor for Ukrainian exports. The central idea was to calm markets by ensuring an adequate supply of grains, thereby limiting food grain inflation. Also, it foresees the establishment of a control center in Istanbul to be staffed by United Nations, Turkish, Russian, and Ukrainian officials to run and coordinate the process. Also know that ships would undergo inspections to ensure they are not carrying any weapons. Now, coming to the importance in tackling the global food crisis, as per the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, approximately 10 million tons of grains have been shipped since the initiative commenced. Secondly, it was earlier inferred that supply situation in market were seen to be easing with the potential of further price drops. But what happened is that people started hoarding the grains in the hope of selling it for a sizable profit owing to supply crunch. This initiative has also been credited for having made a huge difference to the global cost of living crisis. See, you have to know that Ukraine is among the largest exporter of wheat, maize, sunflower seeds, and sunflower oil. Its access to deep sea ports in the Black Sea enables it to directly approach Russia and Europe along with grain importers from the Middle East and North Africa. By that way, the shipment of grain and food stocks into world market will help bridge the global food supply gap and reduce pressure on high prices. And about 44% of shipments, which includes corn, wheat, rapeseeds, and sunflower oil among others, reached high income, where nearly 28% of these goods reached low and middle income countries, while 27% of these goods reached upper middle income countries. Finally, know that its access to deep sea port in the Black Sea enables it to directly approach Russia and Europe along with grain importers from Middle East and North Africa. So it is said that the Black Sea Grain Initiative is a welcoming step, as ensuring food security to people will protect them from another impending global food crisis. So this is all about Black Sea Grain Initiative. And from geography perspective, you can look at this map and you can locate countries which are located around the Black Sea region. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the second topic. Second topic: center to stop sites from waving dark patterns to mislead buyers. Recently, the center has sought public comments on the draft guidelines for prevention and regulation of dark patterns on the internet, particularly in e-commerce platforms. Also, there was a news that the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Advertising Standards Council of India recently held a joint consultation with stakeholders on the menace of dark patterns. Here, the Advertising Standards Council of India has come up with guidelines for addressing the issue of dark patterns, while the central government is also working towards a norm against dark patterns. From this context, let us know about dark patterns comprehensively. The topic discusses the concept of dark patterns and the Indian government's initiative to curb their use on e-commerce platforms. See, dark patterns, also known as deceptive patterns or tricks implemented by websites or apps to manipulate users into doing things they didn't intend to do. Adding to that, dark patterns also discourage users from behaving in the way that that is not beneficial for companies. Know that the term was first coined by Harry Brignall, who is a London-based user experience designer in the year 2010. For example, Instagram simplifies signing up and logging in, but makes deleting or deactivating one's account a more complicated procedure in order to discourage users from doing so. The Indian government has asked the e-commerce companies to stop using such dark patterns on their platforms. Adding to that, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution has also set up a 17-member task force to prepare guidelines to protect consumers. Let us now see the different types of dark patterns. First is the false urgency. This tactic creates a sense of urgency or scarcity to pressure consumers into making a purchase or taking actions. Next is the basket sneaking. See, websites or apps use dark patterns to add additional products or services to the shopping cart without users' consent. That is what we call it as basket sneaking. The third type is the subscription traps. This tactic makes it easy for consumers to sign up for a service, but it will be difficult for them to cancel it, often by hiding the cancellation option or requiring multiple steps to cancel the subscription. That is what we call subscription traps. Then the another type is forced actions. This involves forcing consumers into taking an action they may not want to take, such as signing up for a service in order to access content. Then another type is the bait and switch. This involves advertising one product or service but delivering another often low quality service. Next one is the hidden cost. This tactic involves hiding additional cost from consumers until they are already committed to making a purchase. So this is one type of dark pattern. Then the last type is the disguised ads. Disguised ads are advertisements that are designed to look like other types of content, such as new articles or user-generated content. But what was the need of guidelines against dark patterns now? See, numerous websites and apps trick their users into allowing them to track their location or gather their data. For example, as per Vox report, Instagram uses terms like activity and personalized instead of tracking and targeting. So they use activity instead of tracking, and they used personalized instead of targeting. So the user does not realize that what they are actually giving the app permission to do so. So it can lead to consumers making decisions that they may not have made otherwise. And this can result in consumers spending more money, sharing more personal information, or having difficulty in opting out of service. This is why the government has now moved to curb the use of dark patterns with the aim of protecting consumers from such manipulative practices. There are certain measures that Government of India is taking against dark patterns. Firstly, engaging in such deceptive and manipulative conduct by using dark patterns in online platform constitutes unfair trade practice under the Consumer Protection Act of 2019. Secondly, consumers can report instances of dark patterns or provide feedback and report such manipulative online practices on National Consumer Helpline. And Union Government has started classifying complaints received on the National Consumer Helpline, that is the number 1915, to compile information on dark patterns. Thirdly, as said earlier, the center has also constituted a 17-member task force to prepare guidelines on protecting consumers against dark patterns. Now let us see the actions that have been taken in other countries against dark patterns. The United States and United Kingdom have enacted laws to restrict the use of dark patterns. In the year 2021, California introduced amendments to the California Consumer Privacy Act, which aimed to prohibit the use of dark patterns. But before that itself, UK released guidelines in April 2019, which were later made legally binding under the Data Protection Act of 2018. These guidelines prohibited companies from employing nudges to influence underage users into selecting low privacy settings. Now, coming back to the article, it specifies way of addressing these dark patterns. Let us see one by one. See, major Indian online marketplace have received a letter from the Department of Consumer Affairs warning them against engaging in unfair trade practices. They were told that implementing dark patterns in their user interface to influence consumer choice and infringe on consumer rights is an offense under Act Consumer Protection Act of 2019. But however, with the growing use of platforms, a robust legal mechanism is a demand now. So the article says Indian government should amend existing laws to specifically address dark patterns. To do this, new rules aimed against deceptive design practices may need to be introduced along with the updated consumer protection laws and data protection legislation. That is all about the article. So from this article, we saw about dark patterns in a comprehensive manner. We also dealt with the types of dark patterns, measures taken by India and by the rest of the developed countries in the world. Then we also saw certain suggestions provided in the article. With this, let us close this article and move. Third topic, finding Seoul in the Indo-Pacific. The author begins by saying that the historic Camp David summit in August this year among the leaders of US, Japan and South Korea marks the new beginning of strategic partnership among the three traditional allies. As India and Republic of Korea, which means South Korea, commemorates the 50th year of their diplomatic relations, the Camp David summit offers a unique opportunity for New Delhi to reimagine its relationship with South Korea, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. See, South Korea, along with Japan and US, has the potential to re-emerge as a key piece in India's Indo-Pacific strategy. But however, it is important to view the prospects of South Korea strategic partnership in the broader context in the East Asian region as well. Before getting into the topic, let us know about the India-South Korea relations in a comprehensive manner. First, let us know the mutual benefits of India-South Korea partnership. First is benefits for India. With South Korea's emergence as leader in critical technologies, cybersecurity and cyber capacity building, outer space and space situational awareness capabilities, South Korea can contribute immensely to enhance India's foundational strength in the Indo-Pacific region. Then South Korea could also be fourth pillar in India's Indo-Pacific strategy along with Japan, Australia and Vietnam. This can bring about a paradigm shift in India's position and influence in the region. Then know that India can help South Korea withstand Chinese pressure and North Korean threats. But there are certain challenges in the India-South Korea partnership. Let us know about that as well. First is divergence of interest. During the past 5 years, India and South Korea have experienced considerable divergence in their respective national objectives. For instance, South Korea drifted away from multilateral security initiatives, which is the Quad that was led by United States. Meanwhile, India has been actively participating in Quad. Then, trade between two countries was slow and there was no significant inflow of South Korean investments into India. India and South Korea also tried to upgrade their comprehensive economic partnership agreement, but it is not finalized yet. Then, unlike Japan, Vietnam and Australia, South Korea has not received the same level of attention from India as well. Know that earlier South Korean administration was heavily shifted towards China. But with the new policy, South Korea will face inevitable Chinese pressure because they are moving close towards US, Japan and India. Because of that, they will be facing Chinese pressure. Then know that South Korea's peace process with North Korea has completely collapsed. In the coming days, as North Korea conducts more missile and nuclear tests, it may lead to regional tensions. So, any breakout of hostilities on the Korean peninsula can also derail South Korea's Indo-Pacific projects. So, these are certain challenges in the India-South Korea partnership. Now, let us know the significance of this Camp David meeting mentioned in the article. See, one of the most significant developments in the region has been the South Korea, Japan, US trilateral meeting in the United States. Second, the summit has the potential to set South Korea on new strategic directions in the Indo-Pacific with improved relations with Tokyo. Then they could also have more synergy with the American view on China and enhance engagement of the Indo-Pacific region. Third is that the Camp David summit also marks a strategic shift in Seoul's traditional approach of not offending China at any cost. The previous governments, for instance, were far too shy of articulating the China challenge because South Korea's economic proximity to Beijing, where around 20% of South Korea's total exports go to China. The new thinking appears to indicate the view that trade dependency on China does not mean passivity towards a growing Chinese military presence in the region. Then fourthly, there is today a keen desire in South Korea to join the Quad grouping. Seoul has wanted it for some time, but it was unsure whether Japan would support its bid. The Camp David summit may have changed that, and it is possible that South Korea might apply for membership in Quad Plus in the coming years. Finally, there is a new foreign policy enthusiasm in South Korea today, where the South Korean president has declared that the main goal of his foreign policy would be to make South Korea a global pivotal state. And moreover, the country's engagement with US and Japan and South Korea's support to Ukraine, then articulation of China's challenge and desire to play a bigger role in India-Pacific underline this new vision. Also, the geopolitical context provides a unique opportunity for India and South Korea to enhance their strategic partnership in the 50th year of their diplomatic relationship. Know that there are a number of reasons why South Korea is a natural partner for India in Indo-Pacific. Firstly, South Korea's location in the Indo-Pacific close to China, while being a US ally, provides India a like-minded strategic partner. Second, for both South Korea and India, the rise of China and its unilateral attempts at reordering the Asian security architecture are of great concern, even if two sides hesitate in clearly articulating the China threat. Third, for India, South Korea can be an important regional partner at a time when India is close to US than ever before in its history. And now India is more concerned about Chinese intentions and power like never before in history. Another area of collaboration still could be in the context of Korean-built civil nuclear reactors. We have to know that even after conclusion of India-US civil nuclear deal, then India International Atomic Energy Agency Safeguard Agreement, then after getting waiver of nuclear supply group, India has not been able to import any nuclear reactor due to the difficulties foreign suppliers have with India's nuclear liability law. So the author says New Delhi could consider purchasing Korean-built reactors so as to expand the share of nuclear energy in the country's energy basket. Finally, he concludes by saying that South Korea, with a new strategic outlook and along with the US, Japan and Australia, is uniquely placed to help India advance its interest in the Indo-Pacific region. So that is the opinion which is mentioned in the article. So these are the key points which are mentioned in the article. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the next topic. Fourth topic, impact of RBI's lending guidelines. The news is that the Reserve Bank of India recently asked all the regulated entities, including banks and NBFCs, to give personal loan borrowers an option to switch over from a floating rate to fixed rate regime. In a circular on reset of floating interest rates on EMI-based personal loans, the central bank said that the borrowers will also be given the choice to opt for enhancement in EMI or elongation of the tenure. This news article is regarding that only. Now let us know what are the new changes proposed by RBI. Firstly, at the time of sanction, regulated entities will have to clearly communicate to the borrowers about the possible impact of any change in benchmark interest rates on their loans. That is, regulated entities should tell the borrowers what all changes will happen to EMI or their tenor, or both, when there is change in the benchmark interest rate. So any increase in EMI or tenor or both will have to be communicated to borrowers immediately through appropriate channels. First, let us know the key definition here. See, fixed interest rates are those that do not change during the tenure of loan. On the other hand, floating interest rates are subject to market dynamics and the base rate. Therefore, there will be a risk differentiation in floating interest rate. If we take the switchover that is mentioned in the RBI guidelines, at the time of reset of interest rates, regulated entities will have to give the option to borrowers to switch over to fixed rate as per their board approved policy. And the policy will also specify the number of times a borrower will be able to switch during the tenure of loans. Adding to that, regulated entities will have to disclose all the applicable charges for switching loans from floating to fixed rate and any other service charges or administrative cost in the sanction letter. And also the same time, they have to, that is, the regulated entities should disclose the revision of charges or cost from time to time. Then another provision is with respect to elongation. Here, the borrowers will also be given the choice to opt for enhancement in EMI or elongation of tenor, or for a combination of both options. But here, regulated entities should ensure that elongation of tenor in case of floating rate loan do not result in negative amortization. That is, elongation of tenor should not result in writing off the initial cost of an asset. For this, the regulated entities will have to share a statement that is accessible to borrowers through appropriate channels. This will be nothing but a statement at the end of each quarter, which will enumerate the principal and interest recovered till date. Now let us know why has RBI issued new guidelines. The supervisory reviews undertaken by the RBI and the feedback and references from members of public have revealed several instances of unreasonable elongation of tenor. And using that route, banks can change the interest rates by changing the internal benchmark rate and the spread during the term of loan, which could harm the interest of borrowers. Also, borrowers have complained that banks normally change or reset the EMIs in an arbitrary manner and tenors are extended without informing the borrowers. Further, borrowers are not informed about the foreclosure charges. The RBI has also observed that unduly long elongation of tenure has camouflaged stress in banks. That is, theoretically, the borrower can refinance the floating rate loans by going to another bank. But in practice, this does not work well. That is, floating rate loans of different banks with internal benchmarks are not identical even if spreads are identical at loan origination. So the borrower in such a situation is more often left with no choice but to remain captive to the original bank and pay higher charges on existing loans. So as a solution, they have provided with interest rate reset. Now let us know about that. See, when a customer takes a home loan, the interest rate reset clause in the loan agreement allows the lender to review the interest rate after a certain period. And this is as per the occurrence of scheduled reset date of the loan. The reset rate is the new interest rate that a borrower must pay effectively from the rescheduled reset date. Know that these rates and the calculation are not uniform for all banks, as the cost of fund differs between banks. But now, after this lending guidelines, recently where the RBI asked all regulated entities including banks and NBFCs to give personal loan borrowers an option, no, that is to switch over from floating rate to fixed rate regime. By that way, regulated entities cannot arbitrarily reset the interest rates and they will have to communicate it to the borrowers before doing that. So, according to banks, what they say, when an external benchmark rate, if it is adopted for fixing the lending rate, then the reset period should be linked to the tenor of underlying external benchmark only. While longer reset periods increase transmission lags, shorter reset increases interest rate risk for banks. So, banks have indicated that retail customers would resist a shorter reset, particularly in raising interest rate cycle because of the increase in EMIs. So, this is the bank's view as of now. So that is all about the RBI guidelines which has been mentioned in the article. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the final topic of the day. Fifth and the final topic, what is heat index and why it is important to measure? The news is that Iran recorded a scorching heat index of 70 degrees Celsius in the coastal part of the country. This level of heat index is said to be a metric at which the survival of life is uncertain. So the country has also declared public holidays on the month of August 2 and 3 on account of unprecedented heat, says the news agency Reuters. This is not the first time that Iran is dealing with extreme heat. In the month of July, US-based weather observer Colin McCarthy reported that the Persian Gulf airport recorded a heat index of about 66.7 degrees Celsius. So in this context, let us know about heat index. See, the article defines heat index, which is also known as apparent temperature, as a measure of how the temperature feels to humans. Know that the relative humidity is an important factor that determines heat index along with air temperature. Now let us deal this topic from exam point of view. See, 2 months back, India Meteorological Department has launched the heat index on an experimental basis. For instance, you might experience unusually high level of heat despite the official temperature forecast indicating a normal range. Say, if the absolute humidity of a region is high, you might feel hot, even though the temperature may not necessarily be that high. Similarly, say there is a wind blowing, you will automatically feel colder, even if the temperature may not be so low. That is why we say heat index as the apparent temperature. It is the temperature what humans feel when relative humidity combines with the air temperature. Now let us know how heat index will be calculated by Indian Meteorological Department. At present, the heat index is derived using the heat index equation, which is similar to the National Weather Service of National Ocean Atmospheric Administration of USA. See, there are certain color codes that are used for heat index. The color codes used for experimental heat index are as follows. First is green, where the experimental heat index is less than 35 degrees Celsius. Then if we take yellow code, the experimental heat index is in the range 36 to 45 degrees Celsius. Then if we take the orange code, experimental heat index will be in the range of 46 to 55 degrees Celsius. And if we take the red code, experimental heat index will be greater than 55 degrees Celsius. So these are the certain color codes that are used for heat index by the Indian Meteorological Department. So that is all about the article. So we have covered this article from the exam point of view, primarily covering the prelims angle. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the previous year prelims question discussion. First question, Wellesley established the Fort William College at Calcutta because the options given are option A, he was asked by the board of directors at London to do so. Option B, he wanted to revive interest in Oriental learning in India. Option C, he wanted to provide William Carey and his associates with employment. Option D, he wanted to train British civilians for administrative purpose in India. See, Fort William College was established on the year 1800 by Richard Wellesley, who was the Governor General of Bengal at that time. It was named after King William III of England. The purpose were to encourage Indian languages and making the British officials to be familiar with the local languages so that their administrative work would become easier as it involved interaction with the Indian natives. So the correct answer for this question is option D. Wellesley established the Fort William College because he wanted to train British civilians for administrative purpose in India. Now coming to the second question, this question was asked in the year 2019 prelims. With reference to history of India, 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐴N or the Great Tumult is the description of which of the following events? The options given are option A, the revolt of 1857, option B, the Mappila Rebellion of 1921, option C, the Indigo Revolt of 1859 to 60, option D, Birsa Munda Revolt of 1899 to 1900. See, this is a fact-based question. The answer for this question is option D, Birsa Munda revolt of 1899 to 1900. The Munda rebellion is one of the prominent 19th century tribal rebellion in subcontinent. Birsa Munda led this movement in the region south of Ranchi in 1899. The Ulgulan, meaning great tumult, sought to establish Munda Raj and independence for the tribal community. So the answer for this question is option D. We have come to the end of news analysis and previous year question discussion. With this, let us wind up our discussion. If you like the video, if you understand the way I am teaching, please give like, comment, share and subscribe to ForumIAS channels in various social media platforms. Thank you for listening.